They are concerned only with the destruction of the Jedi. For them, it is all that matters, all that ever mattered.
We all know that the Sith achieved their revenge against the Jedi by infiltrating the Republic's highest office and orchestrating a war that inevitably led to the Jedi's downfall, a plan that was brilliant in its complexity. However, 4,000 years before, there was another plan enacted by the Sith that was brilliant in its simplicity. Would it have worked flawlessly if not for one person, a single unforeseen element?
The Sith came to us with an offer. To fight a worthy enemy in a battle that would be remembered forever. Win or lose, as long as the fight is worthy, then honor is gained. The glory at having triumphed over impossible odds is what drives us. If there's nothing at stake, your possessions, your life, your world, then the battle's meaningless. We Mandalore take everything we are and throw it into battle. It's the true test of yourself. The battle against death, against oblivion.
For this video and for possible subsequent videos like this, I will most likely be ignoring any lore established from the Old Republic MMO. Everything ends with KoTOR 2, the Sith Lords, and because of that, we don't really know what was happening in the unknown regions and don't know exactly what this Sith Empire was like. All we can assume is that at some point someone came into enough power to enact a plan of galactic proportion. A plan specifically designed to turn the Jedi's own ideology into a liability. The Sith are the eternal enemy of the Jedi, with the ultimate goal of destroying them. Revenge for the conclusion of the 100-year Darkness War that followed after the Second Great Schism.
The Jedi Civil War is not the first one of its kind. Thousands of years ago, the Jedi had another civil war that split the Order. It was a terrible thing. A faction among the Jedi abandoned the teachings of the Order, following their own path. They waged war on their fellow Jedi, a war that raged across the galaxy. But these fallen Jedi were cast out, defeated, and they retreated to worlds in the Outer Rim. Over time, they took on the mantle of the Lords of the Sith, but in their hearts they never forgot the Jedi. The hatred for the Jedi Order burns in their veins like fire and echoes in their teachings.
The Mandalorians were a proud warrior culture that wouldn't be able to resist a worthy adversary. The Sith managed to convince them that that adversary was the Republic.
Revan said the Mandalorians didn't invade the Republic space 10 years ago because it was our choice. We were tricked. Our entire people sacrificed as pawns and never knew it. He said there was a war coming, that it was waiting out in the unknown regions, in the dark, waiting for us to destroy each other.
The Sith did this knowing full well that the Republic and the Jedi might as well be one and the same.
The Republic was never what was important, ever. It was but a shell that surrounds the Jedi, just as the teachings of the Jedi are a shell surrounding the heart of man.
The Jedi, especially the High Council, often say that the reason they hesitated to help the Republic and fight the Mandalorians was because they could feel some kind of dark side energy that was behind it. It's very possible that this was intentional on the part of the Sith. We know that Force users are capable of learning a technique that allows them to cloak themselves and basically hide their presence in the Force. We know that Sith assassins can become especially adept at it. So the theory is that the Sith would make the Mandalorians wage war on the Republic. The Republic by itself has no chance of winning against a group of hardened warriors who live for battle. The Republic would have to petition the Jedi for help since they haven't electively done so yet. And the reason for that is the same reason why they will refuse to join the war. The Sith are allowing themselves to be felt in the Force, forcing the Jedi to extreme caution. However, the situation demands Jedi action, as not helping the dying people of the Republic fundamentally goes against their beliefs. This will inevitably lead to a split in the Jedi Order, as some would want to fight the Mandalorians while others will remain subservient to the Council, even if they have the desire to join the war.
What? What do you mean? You're wrong, just as you were when you defied the Council. I tire of fighting with you.
Use your powers to protect people. A basic value taught the Jedi since they were infants. They're also taught to heed the words of the Jedi High Council, but they're never taught to be their slaves. Imagine if you were Catholic. Helping and feeding the poor and hungry would be a basic value that is taught to you as an infant. If the Pope orders all Catholics to suspend aiding war refugees due to any number of reasons, do you submit to his commands, or do you continue to follow what you believe in? It's a similar situation that would lead to the same outcome, a schism. The Mandalorian Wars resulted in a Jedi schism, but wasn't called a Great Schism, most likely due to the fact that the Jedi that left the Order didn't leave because they fell to the dark side, but instead left because they were trying to follow the same Jedi beliefs that had been instilled into them. And now the very people who taught them these values are telling them not to adhere to them. Everyone knew that Mandalorians, at least the Mandalorians of that time, were no pushovers. With no force powers, but with discipline, skill, and martial prowess, they were known to best even Jedi in combat. The Republic didn't stand a chance, but since the Jedi Council felt the dark side behind the war, they delayed, and that delay would make it so by the time the Jedi entered the war, there would be no hope for victory. Perhaps the Jedi believed that it didn't matter when they entered the war, they would be able to defeat them. Arrogance and Jedi are no strangers to one another. Even if by some miracle the Jedi managed to defeat the Mandalorians, it would be a Pyrrhic victory, and Republic space would be like taking candy from a dead baby for invading Sith. This plan should have been a checkmate move by the Sith. There was only one problem: Revan.
We fought against the Republic forces for some time, over the course of many battles. At the start, they were not much of a threat to speak of. But once the Jedi Revan took charge, things began to turn against us. The Republic fleets began to use more than just basic tactics. Feints, counterattacks, mass deceptions. Revan was a genius on the field. Revan abandoned worlds of their defenders so that others would be too fortified to strike, and was willing to make sacrifices in order to advance goals. And in the end, Revan proved too much for us. We lost to the greatest single warrior the Republic has ever known. It was not your ships, or your men, or your vaunted fight for freedom that won this, the final battle of the war. It was by the actions of one person, the Jedi Revan, that you prevailed. His strategies and tactics defeated the best of us. Even Mandalore himself was taken aback by the ferocity of his attacks, the tenacity of his defenses, and the subtleties of his plans. He fought us to a standstill, and then began pushing back. We really didn't have a chance.
Who could have seen this coming? That the Jedi would not only have a military genius, but one that, despite joining the war to follow the teachings of the Jedi, was willing to suspend other Jedi teachings to achieve victory. You can condemn him for it, but since he wanted to win, he didn't really have much of a choice. They waited too long. The Republic's military strength was severely depleted at this point.
We needed the Jedi during the Mandalorian Wars, more than anything. The Mandalorians were slaughtering us by the millions. The millions.
The Jedi teach that how you achieve victory is more important than actually achieving said victory, even in war. And that really says something about the Jedi. That they would rather watch billions of lives that they swore to protect be murdered or enslaved as long as the Jedi can go to their graves patting themselves on the back.
The Jedi, the Sith, you don't get it, do you? To the galaxy, they're the same thing. Just men and women with too much power, squabbling over religion while the rest of us burn.
What would have happened if Malak was never able to usurp Revan? Could you argue that creating his own Sith group would backfire on him once the quote-unquote true Sith arrive? Would Revan have troops defecting to them? Perhaps Revan was too much of a charismatic figure for that.
We were loyal to Revan. That was enough. He saved us.
Was Kreia right and wrong about Revan from a certain perspective? Was Revan ever truly on the dark side at all? These and a few more I have written down are all questions I'm thinking about exploring. I'll see how this video does and decide whether to produce more sooner rather than later. If you'd like that, then consider leaving a like and subscribing for more. And let me know in the comments what you think of this format.